Windows Direct is also offering no-interest financing for 3 years, 36 months of 0% interest. Have a price from another company? UWD will beat it. Call them, 216-518-8900, or just go to universalwindowsdirect.com.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun, your way. That means every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are randomly picked. And if some of the numbers you picked match, voila, you're a winner.
Hello.
Doesn't require you to know a single thing about sports skidball or overs, unders, pluses, minuses, or lines, or whatever else. Keno is as simple as, did some of my numbers match? They did? Great. You just raked in some dough. There are more than 20 hours of Keno draws every day and thousands of places to play statewide. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
I'll say this. There are no entries in the Hoops Fan Hall of Fame who didn't show up to the game. Yes, you in the back.
Professor, March Madness is coming to Cleveland. Are we ready?
You prepared to bring the fire? Give it 110 from tip to the final buzzer? Oh, you're ready. The NCAA men's basketball first and second rounds, March 21st and 23rd in Cleveland. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/MBB tickets. Class dismissed.
1999 was a...
Hello.
Y2K was approaching. President Clinton was in...
Hi, Gibbs.
Stamps were just 33
I'm good. How are you?
73 cents. Now that's inflation. And reliable...
We got about a minute 25.
cleanings to just $99 for a limited time. This includes a camera inspection using the latest technology so you can see exactly what's happening in your lines. As a veteran-owned company, they pride themselves in respecting your time and getting the...
Okay.
So they always include a 12-month reliable guarantee. Their policy is, if they can't get your drain flowing again, they will waive the service fee. Plus, get a free, no-obligation work
The combine folder you said?
and basement
For Bucky?
commercial work.
All right.
Do it all. And remember,
I'm just getting transitioned in here, so I'll get that.
How about that imaging right there?
Yeah.
How about it?
I'm flattered. I'm touched. I'm moved.
I am as well. Why? Do you want? Are we supposed to be this far away from each other?
I don't know. You want me to get in
You
closer?
can move closer.
I mean,
Come on in.
You got
Come on
room.
in.
I mean, you have room.
Hey,
You have a
buddy.
big table.
Yeah, the water's
love
warm.
Hey.
There we go. Let's go. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Ethan Segura, Andrew Siciliano. From the booth to the combine here for Cleveland Browns Daily today. Our hot topics of the day presented by University Hospitals, the official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Scraps at Starbucks. That's got to be the hottest topic going right now. I mean.
And Scraps is not the name of a dog, right? That's Chomps.
No, that's
a dog.
Chomps.
Scraps is not a dog. We're talking actually about a throwdown. last night.
Yeah, or at least a confrontation. Photos that could easily be put on posters to sell pay-per-view and tickets to an event.
I can tell you right now that a major media company last night, I was speaking with somebody in a significant position at a major media company that was already contemplating how to put together this pay-per-view scrap.
given that I know who you're talking about, the way that you described that is great. And it's exactly who you would think he is talking about right there. Listen, it reminds me, in my basement, I have a poster, WrestleMania 18, Icon versus Icon, The Rock, Hulk Hogan standing face-to-face like that. And I think we saw a scene reminiscent of that yesterday at Starbucks. And it's been quite frankly, it's stolen the show here in Indy.
I'm on Team Ian, by the way, for the record. The other guy's got the height and the reach advantage by far.
Listen, the thing that could happen to Ian that could be his downfall is that in the middle of the fracas, he pretends to get a phone call, loses his focus, and gets knocked out.
I sense bitterness.
So we can't say that wouldn't happen. We've seen indications that it's possible.
You know what? Bo's not here, and I'm honored and thrilled, like I said.
We're thrilled
and flattered to be here. I'm just glad that the idea that even without him, the show begins with nothing but inside jokes.
Yeah.
I think it's great that we can
You've
keep that
got plenty. We can
consistency.
absolutely keep that going. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. All right, outside of the fact that we know that there have been squabbles, what's the one thing you think in your time here and what I'm calling – I've reached the point of my trip where this is now Combine Vegas.
Right.
We're going into 72 hours, ready to get out of here. Last night, very long night, very fun night with the G-Man. Little Butler basketball, little Kilroy's, little Prime.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the one thing you think that you have learned so far here this week?
I mean, I just think that, first, as we get tired, not tired of the Combine, as we've been here a while, for the fans at home, tonight is when it begins. I mean,
yes.
The drills are tonight.
Right.
The D-line, the linebackers, like Kenneth Grant, we find out from Michigan, just announced he is not going to run.
A little hammy.
He's got a hammy thing, but we get to see the actual players, maybe not the player at number 2, but the actual players the Browns could be drafting and that the other 31 teams could be drafting. We get to see them on the field tonight. The quarterbacks throw on Saturday, but neither Cam Ward nor Shedeur Sanders is going to throw. The thing for me is before we can wrap our head around what the Browns could do at number 2 is what will Tennessee do at number 1? And that is, right now, to me, the biggest unanswered question here in Indianapolis. Do they go Abdul Carter, who has a foot issue that some people think could be concerning? Also the shoulder, but the shoulder was going to be okay by March 28th and the Penn State Pro Day. Do they go Travis Hunter, who the smiley Travis Hunter you saw in New York for the Heisman was a very buttoned-up, short answer Travis Hunter on the podium today, and he has said that he is not going to work out. He is a corner who wants to play wideout or a wideout that wants to play corner, but he will work out at Colorado Pro Day. He's not going to do it here. What will Tennessee do? And then with all of that, and it's all attached, where will Matthew Stafford go? Because I'll say it, and I'll say it again, I've said it all week, a 37-year-old Matthew Stafford is the most significant player in the 2025 NFL Draft. Because
Agreed.
If he goes to New York and the Giants are sitting there at 3 behind the Browns, that changes things. If he goes to Vegas, I think it's more Vegas than New York right now, then that changes everything. The Raiders are at 6. Is there a door at number 3? And how do those teams and the other teams that need quarterbacks react after we figure out where Stafford is going? And to me, that hangs over this entire combine.
I think you're exactly right. And speaking of Stafford, what led to this fracas was a report that Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford were in the ski community together and made it almost
the Yellowstone Club in Montana,
which is a very lovely place,
above both of our pay grades combined.
Yes, but lovely. We know people who know people.
We know people that know people, but not my pay grade.
So is it a recruiting visit? I don't know. I think you go back in Rams and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading that there was kind of we just happened to be vacationing at the same place with McVay and Stafford prior to him becoming a Ram.
They were. Yep.
Yes. So I don't know if this is history repeating itself. If he does go to one of those two teams, though, from a Browns standpoint, it takes a team maybe that would trade up to one ahead of you for a quarterback off the board. Now, that might, though, also make the team that does not get him maybe more inclined to trade up to number 1.
Exactly. And he's the biggest piece in this draft. Now, if the Giants get Matthew Stafford, there's no way they're taking a quarterback at 3. They are taking a Travis Hunter or whomever. They're building around Matthew Stafford because I firmly believe that staff, Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, know they have to win right now. Their jobs are on the line in 2025.
Yes.
If Pete Carroll, John Spytek, and Tom Brady trade for Matthew Stafford at 6. I would not put it past them to still take a quarterback at 6, say, if Shedeur is still there. I would not put it past them at all and use the Atlanta model. They've done that in Seattle.
Sure.
Right? They brought in Matt Flynn. They drafted Russell Wilson the same year. So there is a model there. But when we know where Stafford goes, and honestly, let's say this too, when we know where the other quarterbacks go, Sam Darnold most notably on March 12, then we could get a better feel for what the Browns could be looking at it too.
You are uniquely connected in some ways to this situation because obviously you're talking about how it could impact the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, you know some things from the Rams as well. What's your gut say? Mine would say, I don't understand why he wouldn't be playing for the Rams.
It's complicated. I would say, so last summer, Matthew wanted his contract adjusted. And it went all the way down to the very first day of training camp and Sean McVay's introductory press conference to open up camp. That got pushed back 3 hours because they were trying to figure out this deal. Stafford wasn't throwing at any of the OTAs or any of the offseason stuff, and everybody was told there's nothing to see here, but there was something to see. He wanted a new deal. And what they did to make it reasonable is they took the guarantees from 25 and the guarantees from 26 and they pushed them into 24. The result is right now he's got like 26 left and none of it is guaranteed. Matthew Stafford should not be playing for $26 million. He would like a new deal. I think the number is something like what Kirk Cousins got last year, 100 over 250 a year. The Rams have drafted well, and they understand that this a year from now they have to pay Puka Nacua and Kobe Turner and Byron Jones and everyone that they drafted a couple of years ago. They have drafted well, and they have to pay that bill for those young pieces, right? I think there was also some frustration at some point last year as to how Stafford might have been playing, but there were all kinds of O-line injuries. Both wide receivers were banged up, and the battle station wasn't truly fully operational until the second half of the season. And when it got there, he played his best ball, and they were this close to beating the Eagles in the snow in Philadelphia. They believe they would have won the NFC Championship game at home against the Commanders, and if you see that they had 15 sacks in 2 playoff games of Darnold and Hurts combined, I think they would have had a puncher's chance, if not better, against Kansas City in the big game.
100%.
But at the same time,
Eagles tougher than anybody.
Same time, they are very much a get out a year early and not a year late team.
Of course.
And if they think that they're going to get a diminishing return on a $50 million, because I was just talking to somebody, Jeff Schwartz over there. Jeff's like, just give him 1 year, $50 million. Actually, it was Sam Monson. I'm sorry, just give him 1 year, $50 million. 1 year, $50 million contracts don't exist,
right?
Because the cap implications down,
that
doesn't happen. So, I think there's also a confidence there that they can go find another quarterback and be a good team, a veteran.
And you certainly wouldn't bet against them. I mean, they could say we'll pay Sam Darnold,
sure,
and start over on the age standpoint. Sam Darnold's still young,
sure. There is a world, by the way, in which they can agree on a number, and he stays there.
Yep.
But they also know that right now they can't agree on that number, and they're letting him
test
go
the market.
Look.
Will the market say that you can get what you want, or will the market say you can get what we're offering?
I think Vegas makes sense, man. I mean, Kelly doesn't have to move. The kids don't have to move. You can fly back and forth. He can go back and forth. It's a 45-minute flight. They could give him the contract. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but I would not be shocked at all.
So that is a big part of it. And then one of the things that I would say that I've learned here so far is that the majority of people think both of these quarterbacks are very good. Both of these quarterbacks can win. I think a lot of people think from just a pure kind of stylistic standpoint that Shedeur maybe is a better, as Field Yates used the term, hand-in-glove fit, but that Cam Ward is the more talented quarterback. And I think if you have a coaching staff, you have 2 good options, but if you have a coaching staff, you want the better ball of clay to mold, right? Mm-hmm. So if the Browns could be where they're like, we love both of these guys, we don't care, we're good. There's also a world, though, in which they prefer one to the other. You were talking about it before we got on the air. There has never been a 2-to-1 move in the history of the draft.
As far as I can tell. Now, I'm double-checking with NFL research. They have a little on their plate, big show tonight. But as far as I can tell, there has never been a 2-1. There's been a 3-1, but that hasn't happened since 1975, where it was the Colts
Almost
and the
50
Falcons.
years.
The Falcons went to 1. They took Steve Barkowski, the quarterback, at 1. The Colts moved down to 3, took Ken Huff, and they got another offensive lineman in the deal. Name is not George Kunz, Kunz. Like, they moved down to 3 for an offensive lineman, and the Falcons took their quarterback. I think there's some people that think, oh, well, 2-1 is not expensive, especially in this draft. It's going to be expensive. It's not like, oh, hey, let's get the pick from the Amari trade, that 3, and just, flip it to the Titans.
I'd like
and
it
move
to be
down
that.
1. I would like it to be that clean and simple. I think it will cost a lot more than that.
Is there something, and I want you to tell me what you actually think that would be, but there would be, maybe I'm thinking about this because through Brown's colored glasses, clearly I am. If you're the Titans and you're not taking the quarterback, and you go to second, you still get to get the same guy that you were going to take at 1, and you get something for nothing.
Absolutely. But then again, go back to Stafford or whomever would want a quarterback. Is somebody going to beat that? What's that pick, 98? Okay, I'm just playing make-believe here.
Sure, but you're
that
not
pick
picking
is 94. Right, but is somebody going to offer a better deal to go to 3 potentially, let's say?
Where you would still get what you
Right.
wanted potentially.
I don't think 4 trades up. I don't think 5 trades up. There's this story
It's
out there
3,
that the
6,
Cowboys
7
might trade
maybe.
up. I've been told that's nonsense. Have they talked? I mean, everybody talks.
Sure.
Everyone talks at Starbucks or hallways or Elmo's everybody talks.
Sure.
But I don't think that would be legitimate. I just look, if I'm the Browns, and you and I have talked about this 1,000 times, and you absolutely say one of these quarterbacks is the guy I want and I don't want the other one, then you do your best to ensure that you get the one you want. I'm just telling you that if ensuring getting the one you want means moving to 1, that ain't cheap.
What do you think it would take?
Next year's 1, perhaps. I know that sounds absurd, but I've had other people tell me it's less. Okay, but if I'm Tennessee, I'm going to wait until the very last minute and hold on.
For sure.
Yeah, and then play chicken.
For sure.
But that's just me. That's what if I were Tennessee, that's what I would ask for. If I were the Browns, I wouldn't pay that. But if I were Tennessee, that's what I would ask for.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, if you are correct and that quarterback is that guy, it really doesn't matter what you give up to get him.
I don't know.
But if you're not,
look, there may be a world in which the Browns, the Giants, whomever just goes, I'm fine with either.
I'm fine with either.
That's unlikely, but yeah, I'm fine. And you know what? If I don't get him, I'll get him next year.
Which is a tough thing to do. Let's lock this in. Let's just go ahead and lock this in. But you're exactly right. We have got lots of people going through the podiums today. It was it the wide receivers or was it the corners? Who did he speak with?
Well, he had both, and he had the tight ends
and the
as
tight ends,
well,
which is a group that I think somebody that spoke today will be a Cleveland Brown this year. I think I would be very surprised
among
if we
the tight
don't
ends.
take that tight end.
Mason Taylor met with the Browns yesterday, but that's not exactly a shocker. I mean,
so did Fannin.
All these guys go
so did
through.
Arroyo.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing too. When you read Team X met with Player Y, it shouldn't be breaking news. That is why we're all here. To
exactly.
meet with these players, including ones with big names, including ones where, like, you don't think that guy is ever going to be on the board. Like that. That is their job to meet. I've only had one GM tell me this week. I said, hey, did you meet with Abdul Carter? And he was like, no way he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
No way he's going to be there. I said, but, I mean, just in case. It's like, there is absolutely no way he will be there, and we are not trading up. I said, okay.
Well, then there it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you put more stock in if a team brings someone for a 30 visit than any report that they're meeting here?
Absolutely. But it's also misinformation season. Some teams will do 30 visits just to throw people off.
And sometimes they won't do anything with the guy because
they don't want anyone knowing.
The conviction is already set. Travis Hunter, an interesting one. He definitely thinks today that he can play both ways in the NFL, and here's him telling you just that.
But I feel like I put my body through a lot. I do a lot of treatment. people don't get to see that part, what I do for my body to make sure I'm 100% each game. But I feel like I can do it because nobody have done it, and I know I can do it. I did it at college level, which the game is, we rarely get breaks, and it's a lot more breaks in the NFL.
I think he makes a very valid point. He, even in the NFL, playing both ways, he is not going to play as many snaps or at the pace that he did in a game that he played at Colorado.
True. I think the question is how – look, I've said this 100 times, is if he were a corner only, is he a top 5 pick? And if he is a wide receiver only, not going to play the other way, is he a top 5 pick?
My guess is, this is a very uneducated guess, my guess is to the cornerback only, no. To the receiver only, yes.
And that's what I thought. I've had people answer on both sides. And when they answer on both sides, well, that I think shows you his value. And if he's good enough to be a top 5 pick at either, and you might be able to get 10 snaps out of him on the other side of the ball, then yeah, I'm taking him that high.
He's kind of like it would be like Ohtani.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something we've seen. We know people have maybe thought about it or dabbled, but he has an opportunity to do something we have not seen.
I do believe, however, he can't maintain the snap count. Like the numbers last year, he averaged, and this was the highest in the FBS, 111.5 snaps a game. Okay?
Right.
Just for the context, no other player averaged more than 78 a game in the last decade. Okay, so he averaged 30-plus more snaps per game than any other college player in a decade. Okay, that was last year. But wait, he did it even more the year before when he averaged 112. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting this wrong. So it's 111.5 over his Colorado career.
Yep.
And last year, 112.3. No one, we talk about Charles Woodson, talk about other guys, no one has ever taken this much work. I don't think he can maintain that. My opinion.
And you said 112, so that's if you were to pretend that it was 50-50 split, that's 56 on each side of the ball.
Yeah.
An NFL game, on average, probably has, 65 snaps on each side of the ball? There's no way he's going to be able to play 80 to 90% of snaps, period, in a National Football League game. But there's a world I could see where he could do 50 and 20.
Yeah.
And for him, that would probably feel like a breeze.
Totally. His wide receiver ball skills as a corner are scary. I've also had people tell me he's 175 pounds. Can he live as a 175-pound corner? He's not Emmanuel Forbes, right, who is like 150 pounds dripping wet.
Yes.
At all. But, how much more does he have to bulk up if he's going to play that much corner? I don't know. He's special, though.
If you truly are special and you can cover, the tackling portion becomes a little less important.
Yes, true.
A little.
But in this modern –
you still have to tackle.
In this modern game where everything's going sideline to sideline.
Yes.
Right. You better tackle, because then if you don't, you're the weakness in the run game, and they're coming right at you every single time.
Well, Travis Hunter was also asked earlier today who he models his game after.
Jerry Jeudy, because he's from Florida and I'm from Florida, so I kind of copy his movements a lot. But other than that, there's really no other player that I style my game after.
Jerry Jeudy, Browns Pro Bowl wide receiver, who modeled his game after Amari Cooper, followed Amari to Alabama, ended up in Cleveland. Each of them over 1,200 yards the last 2 years. Cooper obviously in 23, Jeudy in 24. Travis Hunter models his game after Jerry Jeudy.
Did he say he models the other side of the ball against after Denzel Ward?
He did not. That's all we got. We got Jerry Jeudy. It was the only name that he dropped. I thought that was very impressive. And I remember Jerry Jeudy saying when he was young, he would go to the local McDonald's so he could hop on Wi-Fi to watch Amari Cooper highlights.
That's wild.
And now you got Travis Hunter watching Jerry Jeudy. So that is, to me, that is wild. Certainly not indicative of anything, but an interesting comment nonetheless.
Yeah. He also said that, being number one is very, very, well, I added the very, but he certainly emphasized it's very important to him.
To be the first pick in the draft.
First pick in the draft.
fine. I'd like to see that happen for him. It'd make me. I would be overjoyed. I'd probably cheer while I'm doing the draft radio.
And while everybody wants a quarterback, I just, again, we could have this conversation for 2 months. As everybody wants a quarterback, I get it. I kind of do as well. If they get Travis Hunter, I mean, he is an electric football player.
No doubt.
Electric. He is going to bring juice to that building every single week. Like, if you have your heart set on a quarterback and somebody jumps you and the consolation prize is Travis Hunter, I mean, it's a hell of a consolation prize.
It is. And to me, at least, I would be able to get there. I still would want a quarterback. I like both of them. I would at least be able to get there with a weapon. He, to me, is going to help you score. And that's...
You're the lowest scoring team of the NFL, the fewest touchdowns in the NFL.
That's not good.
No,
we need to score. That's why I said we were sitting down with Kevin yesterday, and I said, the Cleveland Browns daily draft has this using all 5 top 102 picks on offense. I said, I don't think Jim Schwartz would like that, but I could tell he liked it. He liked the idea of that.
How about the fact that the Falcons didn't send any offensive staff here? You see that? The Falcons only sent defensive staff here.
Why?
Evidently, they only want to draft defense.
Well, it'd be about
the
time.
The opposite of you.
It would be about time. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, the Falcons haven't had a pass rusher in 20 years.
Well, they have constantly
rejected
the idea of taking a defensive player early. They had many opportunities.
And they've also taken guys like Tack McKinley and swung and missed.
Tack McKinley. Spent a cup of coffee with the Browns.
T-A-K-K.
Yeah.
Tack McKinley, I once did a...
He actually had a pretty good year with the
Falcons. Yes, he did. I did a pre-draft interview with Tack McKinley, UCLA's own.
Yes.
And get this, do you know what his dog was? I believe it was a French bulldog.
Okay.
Do you know what the name of his dog was?
I do not.
Live on television, he revealed it was Codeine.
Huh.
And you're looking at me, that sounds off. And I said, why, Tack, would you name your dog after a narcotic?
And share that.
Well, he had just come off surgery, shoulder, whatever it was, at UCLA. Who's recovering, like post-op. They got him a dog. What do you want to name? Let's call the dog Codeine.
Okay. All right. I will say this: he was an interesting guy when he was with us. I had some nice conversations with him. He's somebody I definitely want on my side.
Yes,
if a situation were to go down. I think he would be good. For example, he'd be a good second for the Insider Battle Royal. He'd be a good corner man for one of those guys, but that's an interesting one. Sometimes I think some of this stuff is just, do you get it from a worldview standpoint? That everything you're doing is part of your interview. It is part of your resume.
You're talking about like a pre-draft interview like
yes.
that? Yeah. I mean...
Everybody, if that was said in everybody in the room would be like, excuse me?
Look, I've also done...
Still went in the first round, though.
Yes, I've also done pre-draft interviews in which, like, Ronnie Stanley, for example, great dude, was on in his undershirt in his hotel room, live on TV, looking like he just rolled out of bed and was half asleep.
Which he may have been.
He turned into a first-round pick, a model citizen, and a great player. Like, it was not a bad kid.
Listen, Al Michaels.
Someone should have told him to put a shirt on.
Al Michaels does interviews in sleeveless T-shirts from his hotel room. So.
Yes, but that is, and all the talent evaluators who have to go in, their coaches, GMs, whomever, support staff, will tell you that so many of these formal interviews now, not that they're scripted, but the agents, and it's their job to do this, have prepared these guys so well. Like, if there are red flags that you know you're going to get asked about,
they have a script.
You have your answer.
100%.
Okay. The game is to get you out of that answer and to find out who you really are, not to trick you, not to angrily put a finger in your chest,
but to evoke a genuine response that you weren't prepared to give.
Yes, to try to get to the authentic
self. That's right.
Yes.
We're all working on that.
I mean, yeah. I'm 50. I haven't gotten there yet.
We'll get there. Hey, we're trying. These are the things that we're sorting out here in Indianapolis. When we come back, you're going to sit down with NFL Network draft analyst Bucky Brooks. Oh, I'm sure that will be a good conversation.
Former second-round pick Bucky Brooks.
As of before you guys talked, or at least as of the last time I saw his rankings, he
Uh-huh.
actually had Shador as the top quarterback, and in his first mock actually had Shador going 1 overall.
But, and here's your tease, does that mean he thinks the Browns should take him at 2?
Find out when we return. Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, live from the Combine in Indianapolis. The new Rumpke Recycling and Resource Center helps feed the circular economy by supplying Ohio companies and others in the Midwest with the material they need to put what you place in your bins to good use. To learn more about the facility and how you can recycle more, visit rumpke.com. Today, Andrew, we just got some news on the salary cap.
The cap is now officially $279.2 million. So the numbers have officially been handed in. It is pegged at 279.2, which is an increase of roughly $24 million, technically $23.8 million increase over last year. It is within the range.
Almost a 10% increase.
Within the range that, yes, they last week had given teams parameters. It's between this number and that number. It's basically right in the middle, 279.2 79.2. So the Browns, as expected, all the other 31 teams, as expected, will have more wiggle room to do whatever it is they need to do. But this number it comes in exactly as where they thought it would be.
What goes into that? So they gave a range a week ago, but they were unable to give the number a week ago?
I can't describe the full equation, but it is with the CBA and with the union, and there are different revenue buckets with the CBA, like media money goes in one bucket, shared revenue with the players and merchandising goes in another bucket. They then have to empty all those buckets, and then there is a formula that can go year to year as to how they split it up. And I do believe that the union does have the right to, I'm not going to phrase this right, move some money into subsequent years.
Yep.
Right? And they do have a formula laid out in the CBA as to how they can agree to peg the number. That was a really bad description.
Oh, that was a good description.
It's the easiest way for me to say that it's laid out in the CBA. Both sides have to agree on it. It's 279.2.
279.2. Now, the Browns are probably still going to have, even with that room, need to do some things, make some moves to be where they want to be, given that you're going to participate in free agency to some degree. You're going to bring in, we don't know exactly what the final number of draft picks that will come in, but
right now 11, could be more.
Could be less.
Could be less. You could make a trade.
Could make it. So there's still money that needs to be paid out there, and this was a roster where we still don't really know what's happening with Joel Bitonio. We don't know what's happening with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. We've got the Myles Garrett, obviously, the trade request out there that has been said we're not trading him. We don't know what's going to happen with Nick Chubb, who's going to go test the market in free agency, and now reports are that the Browns will, match whatever he gets out there. They're going to let kind of the market set the value for Nick Chubb. So there's still a lot of question marks around this team, but this is helpful to the Browns, but it's also helpful to everybody else.
What do you think Joel's going to do? You and I haven't talked about this off the air.
No, I hope he comes back.
So do I.
Obviously. I do think, Joe Thomas told us the longer it goes without him announcing his retirement, the more likely it is that he comes back. So that's what I'm holding on to. We haven't heard he's retiring yet. I think he would certainly tell the team I think if he was retiring, maybe he's told the team already. It just isn't public if that was the way, because I think they would want them to have every bit of information coming into the combine to say, okay, interior offensive line is more important perhaps than we thought, certainly before free agency, right? So I feel like we're kind of getting close to a artificial deadline.
You kind of got to know by March 10.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and that's the crazy thing, too, with this condensed calendar with the 18 games or the 18 weeks and the 17 games. I mean, there is no break. Literally, there is zero break. The franchise window closes on Tuesday of next week. And then we're going to head into next weekend, not the weekend beginning tomorrow, but next weekend, as that is like the calm before everything.
Yeah.
And you're going to see salary cap casualties, players getting cut all across the league next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And even it started a little bit in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
In the lead up, you're going to see a lot of that as well as teams try to get either salary cap compliant or position themselves to be players in free agency with that money. And yeah, it is wild. I don't know if you get asked this all the time when the season ends. Oh, so what do you do now in the off? Like, there is no off season.
There literally is no off season, and it's only, I say get worse. We're not digging ditches here, but if you add an 18th game, and the Super Bowl goes to President's Day weekend, there will be no time off. I'm not talking for us. I mean, the people behind the scenes in the football world actually making these decisions and doing the work.
Why do you think, and this is kind of to that point, why does the combine need to be now? As we're sitting here today, the draft starts 2 months from today.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the combine need to be right now?
There's a debate as to whether or not it should be before or after free agency. There are people that would like the draft before free agency.
Yep.
But this is the way the calendar has always gone. The new league year begins, as I said, on March 12th. That is when everything gets reset. That's where you have to be under the cap. If you look at the Browns, if they do a Deshaun restructure, they could have 22, something like that, of wiggle room. It's just the way it's always been, and free agency is the way you start the new league year because contracts end.
Yep.
And get to sign the new contracts. I mean, they've moved a lot of things around. It used to be the schedule came out before the draft, right? And then after COVID, during COVID, they needed to wait. You had uncertainty as to could you have fans in stadiums? Were there states in which you couldn't have games? So they moved it back a little bit, and then a funny thing happened. They realized, wait a minute, now we could schedule games knowing where the shiny objects went in the draft.
Yep.
And
we can make this another tentpole event.
Right. We kind of got lucky in 17, whatever it was, when we had Mariota against Jameis Winston in the opener. Well, now if we wait until after the draft, we could schedule those games and make it up. And now the schedule goes after the draft.
There's a world in which, let's say, Cam or Shador ends up a Brown, Cam or Shador ends up a Raider. That's on the schedule.
Browns play at the Raiders this year for the second consecutive season.
That's right. So that could be one that they could, that's a little bit more of an interesting
It's the only
matchup.
game west of Minneapolis, by the way.
This is, other than that trip and obviously going across the pond, it's a pretty, for the Browns standpoint, it is a pretty easy travel year.
Yeah, it is pretty much all Northeast.
Short flights.
Yeah, all Northeast.
Yeah.
Well, Northeast and Midwest.
Now, don't go and be like, well, we see that, so we're going to send you to Seattle the last week of the preseason. You're going to play a game that kicks off at 10 o'clock Eastern. No thanks. No.
So I was a fan for that one. And, that when I saw the schedule, I went like, what? So I don't need to tell you this. You guys, the Browns were the last preseason game played for the entire schedule.
That's right, period.
Right?
Yep, full stop.
I had a preseason game that day in Houston, the Rams and the Texans in Houston. The Texans were eager to get to the preseason, as were the Rams. That game kicked at 12 Central, noon local there in Houston. I'd say we were wheels up at the airport by 5:30. Like, we got out of Dodge. I landed, and I turned on you and Jim in the car on the way back from the airport. Like, you guys were kicking off.
Yeah.
Like, I was already practically home. The preseason was over for everybody.
Not for me and Gibbe. Not for me and Gibbe. Absolutely. All right, we did tease you with it, and now we're going to deliver upon that tease. Andrew sat down with NFL Network draft analyst, former second-round pick, former three-way star,
Absolutely.
Bucky Brooks.
This might be my favorite.
You guys are down.
The combine. This is path to the draft, but not really. It's here with the Browns. Bucky Brooks, it's good to see you.
Good seeing you, man.
How you been?
I'm great. How's everything in the dog pound?
Everything in the dog pound is good. If you haven't noticed, I think you have. The Browns are picking second. Bucky has his new mock draft out. NFL.com. He has Abdul Carter going 1, and then Cam Ward going 2 to the Browns.
Yeah.
As always, I know it's only version 2.0, right?
2.0.
Okay. Is this what Bucky thinks should happen, or is this what Bucky thinks he hears will happen?
I think it's a combination thing. I think when you are dealing with the two quarterbacks at the top of the board, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, guys are going to see them through two different prisms. The reason why Cam Ward makes sense to me in Cleveland is all the things that have taken place in Cleveland over the last 5 years when it comes to the quarterback position. One, to have an alpha dog leader. Check. That's what Cam Ward is. You talk to people down in Miami, they talk about how completely changed that locker room based on his leadership. You think about the talent that you need to compete with the other quarterbacks in the division, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, whoever Pittsburgh decides on. You better have an elite quarterback in place. This dude has elite tools. He has great arm talent. He can throw it from a bunch of different platforms. But more importantly, he has the it factor. Everywhere he's been, he's kind of been an instrument of change. Incarnate Ward, think about Washington State, Miami. This dude is a winner. I think in Cleveland, you're looking for that kind of presence to come into the building.
And it is interesting, too, how you would hope is still an ascending player.
Yes.
Like, there's still room for growth because you go back to high school in Houston. I mean, they're running it 20 times, not a game a year, right? I'm sorry, throwing it 20 times a year. It is a run-first offense. And then Incarnate Word, it's like, hey, learn to be a passer. And then here we are. He could have come out last year,
Yes.
and there are all kinds of rumors, Ohio State or this school or that school. He didn't get a great draft grade. I give him credit. He went to Miami, and he was like, all right, look what I can do.
Yeah, so everyone talks about the transfer portal at the collegiate level about how bad it is, but for scouts and evaluators, it is good to see how people adapt and adjust. Cam Ward went from playing in the Pacific Northwest to South Florida. Different kind of players he's dealing with. He was able to go on a school that has history and tradition, has great playmakers around him, and he was able to elevate that team. Mario Cristobal has been around some NFL quarterbacks, namely, you think about Justin Herbert. Cam Ward offers similar things, but in a different package. This is a very aggressive leader, someone who holds people accountable. You can go and find all of his stuff on the internet in terms of how he chastises and calls and pokes and prods guys to get them to play at another level. To me, that is needed. And I think with Kevin Stefanski going back to taking over the play calling duties, remember how important the athleticism is when he runs his style and version of offense. Cam Ward offers some of that athleticism to get on the perimeter and do some of those things that you want to do when it comes to the bootleg and naked action.
All right. Bucky Brooks, tell me why. Now, I want to make something clear. Just because you like one player doesn't mean you don't like the other player, right? Tell me why, though, you would take Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders if both were available.
Man, so this is tough. I think it really comes down to style of play. And Kevin Stefanski has to figure this part out when it comes to the offense that he wants to run. Last couple of years, he hasn't really run his pure version of the offense. Now they get back to it. So mobility, athleticism, tools, that all goes in Cam Ward's direction. When it comes to directing the offense and managing the offense, Shedeur Sanders is a more polished playmaker in that regard. It really is 1A, 1B for me at the top of the board with quarterbacks. Style, impact on the locker room, that matters to me. Cam Ward gives the Browns what they need in this scenario.
All right, and to be clear, for those who don't know, Bucky also does Jaguars radio. He's on the sidelines for the Jaguars. So you were there a couple of years ago when Flacco beat the Jaguars in Cleveland. You were there last year as well, week 2, when Alex Wright threw Trevor Lawrence out the back of the end zone. Then Browns hung on for dear life and got that victory week 2. So you've obviously seen the offense with different quarterbacks, and you know what it should look like. Could Shedeur Sanders, if he is a guy, let's say Cam Ward goes 1 to the Titans, Shedeur is the more polished quarterback, right? The footwork's better. The mechanics are better. Could he fit in the offense?
I would say the offense would look more like the version that you saw with Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston. Maybe not with the turnovers, but more of the attack style, push it down the field a little more. Remember, he has been schooled by pro quarterback coordinators and coaches and those things, and Pat Sherman and those things. So he's going to be able to pick it up fairly quickly. To me, it looks different in that style. It is more your traditional pocket passer directing the offense, and they had a lot of success with that. I don't know if you can go wrong at the top of the board if they have both of those quarterbacks available. The Browns just have to pick the right one that fits what they want to do short-term and long-term.
Okay, help me out with the best player available concept.
Okay.
Because on Daniel Jeremiah, our good friend's big board, these two quarterbacks are not in, or maybe they're right outside the top 10. If you're picking 1 and you're Tennessee, if you're picking 2 and you're Cleveland, you're picking 3 and the Giants, they need a quarterback there. Obviously, all 3 teams, you make the argument, need a quarterback. Tell me why these 2 quarterbacks are worthy of being in the top 3 pick conversation when Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, legit top of the board talents, are sitting right there.
Yeah, it depends on what those grades are like, right? So we can talk about top 10s or whatever, but ultimately it comes down to the grade. And so it's like giving someone in class a A versus a A minus. How close is it? I would say Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are definitely in that conversation of being in the top 10. And now it's a matter of fitting need. So need has to factor in the situation somewhere. You just don't blindly pick best player available. If all things are close, then you go to position of need. That is why Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders would be in the conversation for the Browns in that situation at 2. Even though others may have a slightly high grade, the need then makes it the deciding factor.
For me, the most difficult question in this draft, not is who does somebody take in the top 5, but who's QB3?
That is a big question. That is a big question because you have names. Jackson Dart is a name that pops up. People are talking about Jalen Milroe, your fellow Orange guy, Kyle McCord. We'll get into that conversation. All those guys.
Is Will Howard in the conversation?
Will Howard can be there, but I feel like Will Howard, to me, he's been more inconsistent. I don't trust him as much as some of the other guys ahead of him.
Is Tyler Shuck in the conversation?
Man, The 7-year guy.
The 7-year guy. He's got 4 degrees.
4 degrees.
Started at Oregon.
appreciate it.
Tyler Shuck was going to be
Originally committed to Carolina.
Yes, Bucky's a Tar Heel. He was going to be the guy that took over for Justin Herbert and did for a little bit, and then went to Texas Tech, and then he got 2 degrees at Oregon, and then ended up at Louisville. He's got 4 degrees.
4 degrees, I appreciate it.
And like 9 injuries.
Yeah, so he's ready for life. I don't know if Tyler gets in that conversation. People will talk about how he looks on tape. To me, it's about how these guys have played over the course of their career. Jackson Dart playing under Lane Kiffin. We saw him light up SEC defense, particularly the last season. I think he certainly is deserving of being QB3. Jalen Milroe, to me, that's if you're into the Jalen Hurts style of quarterback, rugged runner, developing passer that can push it vertically, he has that. Cal McCord, to me, is kind of like the hidden gem of the group. Look, unceremoniously dismissed from Ohio State, goes to Syracuse and rewrites the record.
Raised a program. To me, that's got to be worth something.
There has to be some value to that. Remember, he was a 4 or 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. He is the underrated talent that doesn't get enough conversation about him, enough buzz about him.
And you go back, you mentioned Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was the 53rd overall pick.
Yeah.
And he just won a Super Bowl, but you don't, Bucky, often see
No.
the day 2 quarterbacks do that. Like, we always have this conversation, who's the day 2 quarterback? They're like, day 2 quarterbacks get pushed up into the bottom of the first round. And day 2 quarterbacks, Jalen is an exception. Dak Prescott was a day 3 quarterback. He had won the Senior Bowl MVP that year.
It's rare.
You don't see those guys
When you looked at the tournament,
hit.
When you looked at the tournament, those guys were first-round quarterbacks.
7 of 8 in the divisional round were first-round quarterbacks.
And we're talking about early. And the reason why is because of the talent. And so when we're in these situations, we're talking about who's QB3 or whatever, it comes down to looking at the talent. Are they talented enough to be considered first round? If they're not, more likely than not, they're not going to make it, and they're not going to have a major impact on the game. Brock Purdy is like a unicorn. It's rare that you find someone that can be a 7th-round player and hit. More than likely, your quarterbacks that are going to play and win in this league are first-round talent.
Yeah, and you always hear, fans always say, and look, I appreciate the thought, hey, no, we'll take the best player available in the first round, and then we'll go get our quarterback in the second round. It doesn't work.
It doesn't happen.
It usually doesn't work. Sam Howell, I think, can play in this league. Like, that was a guy that Washington did that with, and now he's obviously in Seattle. Right. I think he's going to get another shot. Drew Lock, another example. Same thing.
It normally doesn't play out. And the reason why, Andrew, because you get the draft grades based on your talent and potential. It is rare that evaluators miss egregiously on someone when it comes to evaluating their talent and their long-term potential. That's why in the playoffs, most of the guys were first-round picks, and most of them were selected near the top of the board.
By the way, Bucky Brooks, 2nd-round pick. Like, we didn't put that on the screen enough at NFL Network. I'd always say, can we please put that on the screen? 2nd-round pick. Play both sides of the ball. Travis Hunter before Travis Hunter right here. Okay, play both sides of the ball, and then Bucky, a long scouting career before now doing the media thing. Couple of rapid-fire questions real quick before we go.
Okay.
All right. I know we talked to quarterbacks. Who is the best player in this draft?
Travis Hunter, to me, is the best overall player. What he's done on both sides of the ball, he is terrific. He's a playmaker more so than a polished technical player, but to me, he's the best player.
What's the best restaurant in Indianapolis?
Best restaurant. Man. Everyone's going to say St. Elmo, so I'll just kind of go and keep it static. St. Elmo.
I mean, come on.
If not, I'm going to mention a chain. Like, the chains are all the same. I always go to Ruth Chris, or I'm going to go to Capitol Grill or whatever. I get that anywhere. So I can't say that is true to that. But there is a place called Mesh on Mass Ave that is pretty good. That's about a little spot.
I thought you would say, like, Steak and Shake at 3 in the morning.
No, I'm definitely not doing that. Like, not in college anymore. I can't do that anymore.
Okay.
Hard to bounce back.
If all the NFL players who are now head coaches, or if all the head coaches who are here that used to be NFL players ran the 40 this week, who would win?
Of all the coaches that, man, that's tough. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Matt LaFleur. Because when I look at Matt LaFleur on the sideline, he's fit. A lot of guys.
No. Wait, had to play in the league.
Oh, they had to play
coaches
in the league.
that played in the league.
D'Amico Ryans.
Okay. Do you know which NFL head coach who was a former player ran the best 40 time coming out of for the draft?
Kevin O'Connell, maybe?
Good guess. It's actually Aaron Glenn. Kevin O'Connell ran.
I forgot about AJ.
Yeah. Kevin O'Connell ran a 4.61. Kevin O'Connell had that record for like 4 years.
He did.
Okay. Who is the best Browns draft pick of all time?
Wow.
It's kind of unfair to you, but you're holding a Browns microphone.
Best Browns draft pick
Mm-hmm.
of all time. Man, let's see. Can I just say my favorite Browns player? Eric Metcalf was my favorite.
You know, he's my favorite too. Yeah.
I just want to wear my game socks like Eric Metcalf when he was returning punts. So Eric Metcalf was my favorite player.
Go kids, look up Week 2, Browns, Bengals, 1989, Eric Metcalf's rookie season, his Week 2 move against David Fulcher on Monday Night Football, still one of the greatest of all time. And then, by the way, my answer would be Jim Brown was the 7th overall pick.
See, I didn't know if he was
greatest player of all time.
He is the greatest player of all time.
7th overall pick. Wow. All right. That's it. That's all I got for him.
Oh, man. All right, the dog found. Let me go.
Bucky Brooks, everybody. Thank you.
Well, that was a lot of fun, obviously. There, you and Bucky, Andrew, and
I got it wrong too, but he was the 6th overall pick in '57. Sorry, but you got the best player.
You're
in the
only one pick off.
You got the best player in the history of the game at 6 overall.
In what year did you say?
57.
So you're talking about almost 70 years ago, and you're off by one pick. I'm going to give you that's an A+.
I was not around in '57.
Neither of us. We weren't even twinkles. That's what I'm saying. So good job by you. I think that's very good. So I thought it was interesting, and you and I were talking about this. You know, Bucky has Shador as QB1 on his rankings, but I thought made a very compelling case for both of them. But clearly, he now seems like he is more of a Cam Ward guy.
It sounds like it, and he talked about the division, and obviously that he's got the arm strength. He's got a little edge to him. And he thinks that fits well in the division. He also made the point, however, that if you put Shador in there, he says it looks like Flacco and Jameis, that kind, he would think, of play design and play calling, and that it would be just fine as well. And Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft.
Let's just get back to scoring points. Even, we've been talking so much about Matt Stafford, but even go back to Matt Stafford with Calvin Johnson when they were not very good in Detroit. There was a while where they weren't good. Obviously, they did go to the playoffs, but they're still fun to watch. It was still a team that you enjoyed turn them on.
Sure, but you can't outscore everybody every week.
No, you cannot.
You do have to stop the other team. The Philadelphia Eagles just did win the Super Bowl with
tremendous defense.
Listen, I'm sorry for people that think the NFL is Madden. Okay, it is still run the football and play defense, and that is what the Eagles did.
I do think, and this goes back to my fantasy days, it is very hard to be a consistent year-to-year defense. It's
Correct.
Much easier to be a consistent year-to-year offense than it is defense.
Totally agree, and there were plenty of people, historians of the game or the analytics people, who told you that there was going to be a natural regression last year for the Browns defense. Just history dictates.
Exactly.
But for every natural regression, you also have like the 86 Bears. Not to suggest the 23 Browns were the 85 Bears, but the Bears came back the next year, had a good defense. The Ravens have had consistently good defenses. There have been plenty of teams over the years that put together great defense, and that defense stayed great. Maybe not number one, but stayed great for a good window of time. Obviously, a lot of factors to play last year. Browns defense did not do that, but you still have to stop people.
Of course. Is the Legion of Boom the last one that had like a multi-year run of consistent like top tens?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Feels
Maybe.
like it.
Maybe.
Anecdotally, it feels like it. Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know. All right. We still have a lot more to go, Gibby. Are we going to go stack this up here?
No, we'll do a quick little segment here going it through the top of the hour.
All right, so we'll have a little around the league when we come back. You're going to Cynthia Freeland with Andrew. That's coming up in hour number 2. Maybe after a little Albright bomb on the social media, perhaps we're going to wrangle him and get him over here to explain himself. We've got a mailbag, so you can get your questions in using the hashtag AskCBD. It's all coming your way as we wrap up hour number 1, transition into hour number 2 here, live from the Combine. Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today and get $50 in bonus bets when you place your first wager of $10 or more. Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of the Cleveland Browns. Nathan Segura, Andrew Siciliano, live from the Combine. We're going to go around the league now. We haven't talked about this yet, but we're kind of in some of these competition committee and rule changes and all of those things. Two things have happened that I think are a little bit wild, and I understand one of them. The other, I don't as much. The Packers wanted to ban the tush push. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's
not going to happen.
I think that's a wild thing that they would even go for that. There's really only one team that can do that consistently successfully.
Nick Sirianni said that he's offended by it.
I was offended.
And that, look, it's not as if we don't practice this, because you would be blown away by the numbers of hours we put into this, both on and off the field, trying to make it right. You shouldn't ban something just because you cannot stop it. Now, I do think personally there's a conversation to be had, and the coaches have said the same thing about, the legality of carrying guys into the end zone, or of just ramming full speed if you're an offensive lineman to the back of your ball carrier to power
and
him
you used
through.
to not be allowed to do
right.
that.
I think that's a different
That's
conversation that needs to be had. But, just having your offensive line go low, submarine the D-line, and have your quarterback try to ride the wave with a little bit of a friendly push from behind, I don't have a problem with it. Although it is a rugby play, not a football play, but so be it.
But he's also uniquely, again, he's the squat numbers of Jalen Hurts, the leg power, the drive he has. It's a unique situation for them. So I'm with you on that. I don't think that should be banned. The NFL is also considering changing overtime rules in the regular season to decrease the advantage for teams that win the coin toss. What does that feel like? Everybody gets the ball once from their own 25?
No, it's everyone. I think what they want to do is, for the postseason now, after the Chiefs and Bills thing a couple of years ago, we've gone to a system where in the postseason each team is guaranteed a possession. Right? Patrick Mahomes can't get it, march down the field, score a touchdown in the playoffs, and win the game without Josh Allen getting a chance to match him. They may go back, they may take that and put it in the regular
season as well.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm fine with that. I do think it's silly that we seemingly change the overtime rules every 5 minutes, like we're the NHL.
Right.
But I stick with something, and I'm fine. I don't care what it is.
I do think it's also interesting, though, because you could make the case that there is also a built-in disadvantage for the team that gets the ball first.
Sure.
Because the second team knows exactly what it has to do.
Right.
Especially if you kick a field goal. I think if you have the ball first and you kick a field goal, that is a huge advantage to the second team.
And that's what a lot of teams did say when they changed this rule. It was at the owners' meetings down at the Breakers in what year, the Deshaun thing? In 22.
Yep.
Right.
I think the Niners in the Super Bowl. If the Niners, honestly, I think if you could go back in a time machine, they should have gone for it on fourth down, either gotten a touchdown or not. Because if you remember, on the next possession, the Chiefs had, I think, 4th and 2 at their own 18 once they got the ball back.
And
they would have punted.
Exactly.
If you had 0 on the board, they would have punted.
You know what's crazy, though? Just think of the difference in the Chiefs offensively and the difference in what the Eagles did defensively just 2 weeks ago. The idea that just 2 years ago, in overtime, or a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, in overtime, there was no way on earth you were going to stop Patrick Mahomes. None.
No.
And 2 weeks ago, we're in a scenario where I don't know that they can get the ball across midfield. Think of the difference in those two.
The opening play of the game, if I'm remembering it right, for the Chiefs on offense was like an 11-yard completion to Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
They didn't have 11 yards the rest of the first half.
No. They didn't cross midfield until 2.5 minutes were remaining in the third quarter.
Completely insane. Now, one of the other rules that did happen is, I think it happened, or they're talking about moving a touchback now all the way to the 35.
Yeah.
So, Bo and I talked about this. If you were to go back a few years when the touchback was still at the 20, if you gained 30 yards as an offense, you'd be at midfield. Now, if it gets to the 35, you gain 30 yards of offense, you're on their 35, and that is a makeable field goal.
It's a 53-yard field goal.
For every kicker in this league.
Absolutely. They want to see more kickoff returns and fewer touchbacks.
Yes.
Period. And they wanted to do this by week 1 last year. They realized during the preseason with the new dynamic kickoff being tested, and it was a big story in every game, they realized this should change. And there was, I think, a push to change this before week 1 of last year and to make it the 35-yard line in week 1. They decided not to do it. I even heard people say, well,
do it the 40, do it the 50.
Or no, could we do it like in October?
Oh, mid-season.
Like what if we get through September and this doesn't work? Could we do it later? And the pushback was, we're not going to change the rules mid-season on that. The big one, though, is the replay thing, is the first down thing.
For sure, right.
The first down thing is the big one.
So they're going to use a virtual measuring system to determine first downs in 2025. Won't eliminate.
You're getting your way.
Officially, why not? Why can we not get this right? The optimal tracking system notifies officiating instantly if a first down is gained after the ball is spotted by hand.
It's like Hawkeye in tennis. You're going to get it next year.
Yes,
you're going to get it.
I think that's good.
Now you're going to have 2 old men with the chains still there as a backup. Not everything is set in stone yet as to how it's going to be and how it's going to look. But the headline here is, like, Josh Allen, they're going to be able to do the digital thing to figure out if he got it.
Do you know the mechanics behind that?
No, and they're like these cameras, and like they've talked about how many cameras they're going to use and all that, and they don't know the exact.
So it's not going to be something in the ball. It is going to be.
Well, there is already a chip in the ball.
Right.
But it's going to be like not a triangulation because it's going to be far more cameras, but like all these cameras piecing it all together, and it should look like
the tennis
thing. We tried it last year. They used it in a handful of games in the preseason as a test. I did a television broadcast in LA, the Rams and the whomever, Chargers, whatever, maybe the Cowboys, I don't remember, where they used it for one play. The communication was not good. We knew that it might be a possibility. We didn't actually know when it was being done.
Yep.
The official didn't communicate it clearly. They'll clean all that up, and they still don't know, from what I understand, what it will look like visually on TV.
Well, I want that graphic.
Okay.
I want where the ball comes down and it leaves its little divot and it touched the line. In.
But they hope to do it in 30 seconds, and they're going to do it. Now, I promise you, it's not going to prevent people from complaining. I guarantee you. Because you are still going to get angry fans on Twitter freeze framing their TV, going, look, from this angle, he's got it. Don't tell me he doesn't have it.
If they have more angles than you have and they're all working together, they're going to get it right.
This is going to be better. I guarantee you, though, people will still complain. Because people will always complain, and they're going to find a camera angle, and they're going to claim that it doesn't work.
Do you want me to do a little, just let everybody know you're listening to 850 ESPN Cleveland?
It's live producing right here.
I know, it's fun.
No, I did it coming out of break.
Perfect.
I already played it.
Jason Gibbs,
great.
everybody.
I got you.
So can I do one more bullet point? Do
Sure,
I have your permission?
Real quick. We're running a little behind.
Well, that's because we're having great content. We're having a wonderful time.
I'm sorry.
The numbers speak
By
for
the way,
themselves.
this year, it's that we really haven't had to lurk. You've done such a great job of getting people over. There's been no lurking, but my favorite move of yours this year is where you are sitting 6 inches from me, and you could give me a tap and a little break sign, and you go around, and then I look and I see you there, and then I know it's coming. Or wrap it up. 2 more. I like that. That's one of my favorite things this combine.
Trying to stay off the camera.
Why?
Because
the camera loves you.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
All right, we got permission for one more bullet point. I always
Maybe
love
not
you.
Today. Thanks.
One more bullet point. The competition committee will review expansion of replay assist to include more fouls, but, quote, there was no appetite from the committee to use video replay to throw a flag, per Troy Vincent. What?
Dude, I cannot emphasize this enough. They never, ever want to, and I doubt they ever will, get to a place where everybody is happy with just somebody upstairs saying, nope, throw the flag that was holding. Nope, throw the flag that was a face mask. What they are going to do.
Because I think a face mask is an objective call. Like what happened to Sam Darnold, that is objectively a face mask.
I had a conversation.
Holding somewhat subjective.
I had a conversation with an owner Monday night about this, and we talked about that very play. And they're like, yep, not going to happen. But here's what
I think that's crazy.
Here's what will happen is that if they call a face mask, and when you see the replay,
it's not,
then they will fix it.
That's
and
fine.
That's what we're talking about.
We can call it whatever you want here, but if you're be like, dude, that was a face mask. Clear, definitive face mask. Oh, you dropped the flag. Great. They don't have to say it was buzzed in. You can get here. Let's huddle up and pretend we're having a conversation, and then we throw the flag.
How deep and conspiratorial do you want to get here as to how exactly the sausage is made? There are some people that say, well, maybe that does happen. I'm not suggesting that it does, right?
It should. Like the Sam Darnold play, and we'll just use that as get it right. People just want it to be gotten right. First of all, with gambling involved, that is a big thing where you need to have something that is that clear and obvious, and that's an objective call. That is not a subjective call.
Gambling is not new for the last 4 years.
Certainly not. It's not new for the last 20 years. I mean, now it's just official.
Correct. I'm with you. But
get that right.
I can tell you, they tried it with DPI. It was a disaster.
Horrible.
It didn't work.
But that is still, in some ways, that one is somewhat suggestive. Even roughing the passer.
Sure.
And I'd like them to, where it's clearly not, or where you could say if you're getting flagged for a hit to the head, and then on replay it's clear that the hit was with a shoulder to shoulder, and the heads actually did not connect. Pick it up, and
that's what
they
they're
will.
talking about.
They will. That's it. I think it can really only be used for things like that. Now you go back to the Rams Saints. That's not subjective. He was tackled before the ball got there.
But if you really want to go there, then I will tell you that on the previous possession, Jared Goff on the 2-yard line on 3rd down, face mask, his helmet went full 90 degrees to the left.
100% should have been a flag.
So for
100%.
Saints fans, you want to get angry about Nickel Roby-Coleman? I feel you, man. But then if you had thrown the flag on the Jared Goff face mask, the Rams aren't kicking a field goal. They have a 1st and goal on the 6-inch line, and it is a different game. I shall also remind everyone in New Orleans who got the ball first in overtime when it was sudden death. The Saints of New Orleans, the home team.
You haven't had this conversation before. I don't feel like
I've had this conversation.
That felt like
times.
you weren't prepared for that. It felt like you had not. That was in your agent provided script for a triggering question in the combine interview right there. All right, hour number 2. It's happening, but it's going to continue when we come back here. Cleveland Browns Daily brought to you by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Back for another season from your favorite four-legged companion is year 3 of the Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. Little Asa Woody went through her final little bone treat from her initial Barking Backers box. It was a very sad moment. Very sad, but it lasted a very long time, which was a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing. Speaking of something that lasts over nearly 14 minutes, and is going to be a feast for your ears. Andrew Siciliano sat down with NFL Network analytics expert Cynthia Freeland, a great friend of the Browns and of the program. Take a listen.
You're done.
Probably done the segment we're about to do 1,000 times. The difference is this is the now Cleveland Browns version. I'm Andrew Siciliano, and this is my dear friend and my former co-worker and star of, Brown Saturday Morning Insider's Instagram as well. From NFL Network, my neighbor, Cynthia Freeland.
Also, my dog's uncle. You are my dog. You really missed, the key.
Gordy, and I always forget
Clyde.
the other one's name.
Gordy and Clyde. And did you know that Gordy and Clyde, the Browns were very kind and sent the Milkbone, the branded Brown. And you know what they did? They ate the entire thing, including the box.
They ate the box as well?
They wanted to be friends with Chomps so bad that they ate the whole box, including all of the cardboard. It was a touch-and-go day after that. Let's just put it that way.
It's just full disclosure. Cynthia and I are neighbors, right?
Yes.
We live a couple of blocks from each other. So I see Cynthia and the dogs and her fiancé Kyle out all the time. Anyway, you mentioned Chomps.
Love Chomps.
Okay. I'm playing to the audience here of Gibby and Jordan. You probably haven't heard on the Game Day radio broadcast Nathan Zagura read the spot with Chomps. Have you?
No, but
okay.
I need to.
Can we get Cynthia? Okay. We might have to drop this in at one point just so you can hear Nathan's conversation with Chomps.
I can't wait. Okay. Knowing Nathan, I'm already dying. I have my expectations are really high.
You will be dying.
Chomps was actually awesome at the Pro Bowl too. He really crushed it.
Okay.
Yeah, he really crushed it.
Did you take your Chomp selfie?
I did take a Chomp selfie,
because
but unfortunately they lost in tug of war. But that really wasn't the AFC's fault. It wasn't Chomp's fault.
Of course, it wasn't.
It wasn't Chomp's fault.
No, he's got the dog in him. Anyway, let's get to the actual quarterbacks here. So top of the draft.
Yep.
When we look at DJ's, Daniel Jeremiah's big board, or Dane Brugler's big board, or anyone's big board, this is before anyone works out, or the workouts do begin this evening. The quarterbacks throw on Saturday. The top 2 quarterbacks are not going to be throwing. People say, well, this quarterback is ranked like the 15th best player in the draft, so why would I take him at 2?
Scarcity.
When you look at the quarterbacks in this draft, namely Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, do you believe they are worth the 2nd overall pick, or for that matter, the 1st?
Scarcity rules the day. There's a couple of things in this draft that are very scarce. Offensive tackles being one of them, quarterbacks being another. Basically, and wide receivers, it's not as deep as we've seen in recent years. So because of scarcity and because of the importance of the quarterback position, if you can create the full strategy with your free agents and with your draft strategy, not just your number 1 overall pick or number 2, whatever slot you're picking in the first round, it's your whole strategy taken together. So if you can't do better in free agency, or if you don't have the guy on your roster that you would like to start the season with, I think you probably have to, for the sake of scarcity, because they likely won't be around the next time you're picking.
Talking to Cynthia Freeland here, our analytics expert at NFL Network and Browns Insider, of course, on Saturday morning. Don't forget to go to the Instagram.
You know Gordy and Clyde appear because they love the Browns.
No, and I'm the one walking down the Strand on the beach talking to myself, whereas other people walk by going the other way, going, why is this guy talking to himself? How difficult is it to project? Because it is the quarterback, the most difficult position to nail in sports, and the most important position probably at any position in any of our 4 North American major sports. How difficult is it from an analytics perspective to project NFL performance off of college performance?
This is one of the hardest years ever for a couple of reasons. I know Shedeur Sanders, but there's all these people are switching teams, not just quarterbacks.
We're talking quarterbacks within college football.
Yeah, the transfer portal. So NIL and transfer portal we're in the bubble, what I'm calling the bubble, where it's really hard to evaluate teams. There's basically 2 conferences now, and neither of the top 2 quarterbacks played in the Big Ten or the SEC. So I don't know how to rate some of these things. With all these people moving around, you're seeing far fewer advanced concepts. The resumes are more narrow than we've seen ever before, at least since I've been doing this, and it's been a long time. Even though I'm only like 25, it's been a long time.
I am still older than you.
But ultimately, you're just not seeing the different resume stances. You're not seeing, we've all talked about this for how many years have we talked about, like, no one's passing under center anymore in college. Well, now it's even weirder, right? You don't have pulling guards. They don't have time to learn that stuff because all these guys are moving around so often that it's just mayhem, and they're kind of starting in the beginning. So the resumes are very incomplete. It's not to say they can't do it, but now you're projecting something with even more uncertainty. It's going to make it more volatile, and it's going to make it more like you could be a home run, but it could also be like a strikeout. No base hits, fewer base hits in this draft.
Is there a way to work in experience? Because in the past few years, Bo Nix a perfect example. Brock Purdy a very good example as well. Where if you look at the number of collegiate starts on the opposite end of the spectrum, Anthony Richardson, who only started a dozen games at Florida. Mitch Trubisky, who started a year and a half at North Carolina. Can you weigh college starts into any equation here?
You're just far better suited. I would say yes.
Because, you have more data.
You have more data. Always more data is better because it helps define something, and you hopefully get more different experiences as well. How many zone, how many man, all those things have you seen?
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're
not
good.
Just the data from those individual performances, but does actual number of starts become a data point?
It does. It does for many reasons, not the least of which is in the same system, how many starts. It almost, at least what I've been finding so far, and again, we're all navigating the world of transfer portal, translating to the NFL at the same time. So I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but different system starts almost negates number of starts, and similar system starts helps. Like, that really gives you a leg up. Like, I would feel more comfortable taking, no one's a pocket passer anymore, Jackson Dart, right? But like, no one's a pocket passer in the league. That's not in vogue as much anymore. But I'd rather take a pocket passer that I know who they are than a very mobile guy who I have no idea what's going on because I've seen him play kind of like this, kind of like that, and that's kind of Anthony Richardson's case, right? So I don't know. It's what, and the 2 things you said about, I would even argue for Jaden Daniels as well. Like, their coaches or offensive coordinators, or likely both, had a really good concept and picture of how they wanted to use them. You talked to Sean Payton. He, in his mind, he saw Bo Nix as, had some Drew Brees-like characteristics, and that's what he wanted to coach. That's what he felt comfortable doing. They were the team that used pre-snap motion the least in the NFL last year. Instead, they used different disguises of personnel. Training wheels were on. But that's because Sean Payton had a vision for how he wanted to use him, right? So if you have someone where, same thing with Brock Purdy, can you operate in what I want to do? I'm Kyle Shanahan. What do I want to do? I want to do these things. Can you do these things? Great. Then you can work for me. So it's less about this transcendental talent coming in and being like, I'm the second coming of Andrew Luck, whatever. But and more about, like, does the fit match with what I would like to do as a coach?
It's fascinating talking to Cynthia Freeland again. Go back to Bo Nix. We had Bo Nix at the Senior Bowl last year on NFL Network, and the concern was, great, he had 60 starts, but he's not going to stretch the field. The completion percentage at Oregon was so high, 70% high, because it's dink and dunk and dink and dunk. And then you're in September and you hear opposing DBs say, we know where the ball's going and we never have to backpedal. It's always going to be in front of us. And then by the time you get to the end of the season, Bo Nix is throwing 50-yard darts downfield and dropping them in the bucket in Cincinnati in primetime, and he even threw one early before they got blown out against Buffalo in the wild card round. And you're like, well, okay.
Right. Maybe they didn't get that one right.
It is. Meantime, you mentioned the pulling guard before. As we get ready for the drills this evening, I think that's a great example and a segue of, hey, forget about the 40 time. Here's what I'm looking at. I want to see a 10-yard split on that offensive lineman because if he is pulling out in front of my back and trying to get wide, I want to know how he goes from 0 to 10 because that's all I really care about at that point. Hopefully he held the block and the back is downfield. What are the little things within the drills for people at home when they're watching this evening, other than the sexy 40 time and all that they should pay attention to?
So this is a great defensive front class. And now we've seen the return of the running back. So, fun trivia fact. You ready? You want to do some trivia?
Let's do it.
So, expected rushing yards is how much, what's the average you can expect from your running back at the time that they handle the ball. Past seasons, it's been like 3 yards, 3.5 yards. This year, it's been a high since we've been tracking for next year, 4.2. Now, when it's a quarterback, it's 6. And that's up a little bit from 5.7 in previous years.
Can we differentiate between design runs and scrambles?
Yes.
Okay.
So designed runs.
Got it.
Designed runs, 6. Good. So how do you stop that? Well, you put a big old dude in the middle, right? Like you figure out the Mason Grahams maybe of the world. I know you're not supposed to talk about Michigan in Cleveland, but whatever.
Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham.
It all works.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately, this is going to be very interesting from this defensive front class. We know Abdul Carter, very likely the best player on defense in this draft. Not going to be working out. Is something wrong with his foot? We will see what happens with that. Seems to be probably okay by the time the season starts. However, when you're looking at like, how do you look at their feet? Watch the defensive front guys' feet. If they keep their feet pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, moving throughout the entire drill, as long as they're like fast enough, like they could trick my models by just moving their feet a lot and not moving forward very fast. But if on their lateral drills, if they can keep their feet going, they tend to be better. That's a very a minute thing, but it is a very interesting thing.
And there are little things to look at here because we're fascinated always, and the low-hanging fruit, as Mike Mayock would always say, are the 40 times and how many times you put up 225 on the bench. And those are significant, but there's so many other little things, 10-yard splits and how you run the gauntlet. And the
10-yard splits for offensive linemen.
And a 3-cone drill as well, how fast are getting in and out of breaks and changing direction, all those little things. By the way, if you're playing to the Buckeye fans, they have 2 edges here, JTT and Jack, and you got the tackles in the middle and Hamilton and Tyleek. So they are bringing their defensive front here to Indy.
By the way, you know I'm like a big Ryan Day fan, right?
Of course.
He was a GA at BC when I was there, and I've known him for
I'd forgotten that.
Like, it was, just a mere couple of years ago.
A couple of
just a couple of years ago. No, but I've always been like massive fan of him. What he's been able to do. Like, I would not want to be a college coach. That's such a hard job.
No, that's why all the college coaches are going back to the NFL.
Heck yeah. But anyways.
And real quick, we mentioned Kenneth Grant. I spoke to Kenneth Grant yesterday.
Okay.
So he's down to 332. I mean, at Michigan, sometimes we're talking 350, maybe even above.
I was like, I'm sorry, what?
He's down to 332. He looks amazing.
I hope it's not Ozempic. Just kidding.
And
just kidding.
I said,
it's not Ozempic.
If you're no. If you're down to 332, I think he's going to run. If he runs, he's going to run sub 5. And if he runs like a 4.95, which he has done on campus allegedly at 332, look out.
As long as it's if anything under 5 is insane, but as long as it's like 5.0 something, also okay.
They claim that he ran a sub 5 at 350.
I'm gonna be honest
I don't
with
know
you.
that I believe that.
That's what I was about to say. I will wait and see. I don't care though,
Wait,
because you
W-A-I-T, not W-E.
Boom, ching. He'll be here all week, folks.
T.
But I think. Again, it's always about ranges. There's diminishing returns for these extra speedy guys. Now, if you're a guy who went from 350 to 332 and you can get your speed up, then of course. But like, then also put it in context. How many times are you putting up the weights?
Right.
Like, look at all of these things in context together. Curious, but I care about their burst time. So just look at the first 10 split.
Yeah, and
that first 10 split, the burst. You guys, Myles Garrett's burst is historic.
Yes,
right?
and his bend, you turn the tape on, you combine the bend with the burst, and that's absurd. And remember, we're painting a full picture here. Mason Graham may not test well, but turn on the tape and watch the former wrestler throw dudes, and you're like, I really don't care how well he tests. Because
we need to name it like suplexed him. Like, you know, I don't know wrestling terms anymore because, I'm not a child anymore. Like, I used to watch WWE, whatever.
Nathan Zagura, by the way, waiting in the wings there.
Him.
You just took a shot.
Didn't hear it.
What? She said, I don't watch wrestling anymore because I'm not a child.
I just don't know the terms anymore.
Wow.
I know. I just like messing with you.
On that note.
He competed last summer in the square circle. Love it.
Neighbor,
see you
wonderful.
Soon. Yeah.
Cynthia Freeland, everybody. NFL Network's analytics at the S, Andrew. Keep the last S off for savings.
I could just do one if you want.
Expert on day 1 of the workouts here at the Combine.
All right, that was great stuff. Other than that, unprovoked shot at the sport of kings.
I think what she was actually describing like Mason Graham's legitimate Greco-Roman
Olympian,
yes,
like Kurt Angle
background, and she didn't know the proper way to describe it.
A
But
judo
then
throw.
she turned it
Yeah, then it.
into an assault on the wrestling that you enjoy.
I felt that shot too. Z.
Yeah, felt it was.
Which is, hey, it's if you. I like primetime scripted
Where's the
dramas
final
as well.
boss?
I'm a big fan of primetime scripted dramas. I prefer a primetime scripted drama like Severance, with better acting and better writing, than the primetime scripted drama that you enjoy, which is the trash cans and the fake blood and the all that.
I think
First
he's
of
making
all-
it sound like what you watch is not
First of
civilized,
all-
even though you watch.
No, I didn't
Severance.
suggest it wasn't
First of
civilized
all-
at all. I'm just saying if I'm going to sit down on the couch and watch a primetime drama, right?
That's
Or-
real blood, brother.
I couldn't care less about. That was a cheap shot there. I'd rather watch one with better acting and better writing.
Well, this has elements, of course, and that's why there are a great many channels and streaming services available where
Yes.
you can dissect and
Something for
choose
everyone.
Something for everyone.
I'm not insulting you for watching
I
it.
don't
I'm
feel
just
so.
saying I prefer to spend my time watching other scripted entertainment.
I
That's
watch
all.
significantly more of other scripted.
I know
entertainment.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Severance, by the way. What a program. What an absolute.
Have you noticed Mrs. Wong has big hands when she's opening the door?
No.
Go
like
down that conspiracy.
Oh,
rabbit hole.
I am going
Okay.
through a lot of things.
Okay.
I think I
think we need to go to break.
send us.
No, go ahead, buddy.
No, please.
No, all you. I'm just telling you. I'm stepping in because I feel like you guys.
You're
can
you're
go
listening
straight
to
3 o'clock.
Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Nathan and Andrew will be back after this. Get back. Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK Ohio for your free case review. Elk and Elk is a proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. We have what I'd like to call Vegas fog setting in at various parts of the program, both in front of the camera and
Vegas
behind
fog.
the scenes. The Vegas fog is setting in. We just had a great discussion where Gibby goes, we're coming back. And I said, okay, mailbag? And he's like, no. And I said, well, then what are we going to do? Mailbag is what Gibby said. I said, I know. That's what I just asked. And G-Man was dying.
I thought you said Ben because we were efforting Ben, but
mailbag.
Doing a little radio.
All right.
I
got
you.
you. Huh?
How you guys feeling? Remember to hydrate, will you?
I haven't seen. Where is your water?
The G-Man put on a tour de force performance last night. And I told the G-Man last night that you haven't been to the Combine if you haven't been to Prime after midnight on a Combine.
There's a steakhouse in Indianapolis. It's quite a good restaurant. I mean, it's a very good restaurant, but it is the place to go late at night, and they take all the tables out, and it goes from good restaurant, to standing room only.
And perhaps not even standing room.
And I love it. Been going for years. It's a lot of dudes in dry fit. Right? Yeah. It is a lot of dudes.
Well, that's good.
But it's everybody in football.
It's good that the fabrics have evolved. There used to be a lot of people in polyester.
Yeah, exactly. And young Gabe got to go there for the first time last night.
Got to spend a little time with our friend Jake Trotter.
I wasn't sure it was a great idea because there had been a lot of consumption prior. But then
I was on my fourth water. I want you to know.
Hold on, let me paint a picture for you. Let me paint a picture for you.
Because
he's a professional.
Responsible.
Come on. You didn't have anything till 10:45 this morning.
I needed to sleep, buddy.
Yeah, I can tell you what put me to sleep last night.
You know what my kids would say is bullyism. That's what my kids would say. Bullyism is happening right now.
Wait, there was another term that we used last night.
So picture this. We come out of Kilroy's closes down.
Mm-hmm.
You know when they start stacking the stools on the tables immediately next to you with great force, they're saying, get out of here?
I thought it was great how Gabe was singing Closing Time as well in the background. That didn't happen?
Oh, I think there was a strong possibility it happened. There was a lot going on.
So we get to the corner, and I'm like, I'm going to go over to Prime. And G-Man, basically, Papa Gibbe, Peepaw, is like, no, you're not going. And so I'm walking away, and the G-Man's wearing a beautiful maroon coat that had been a thorn in his side for a part of the night. Didn't know what to do with it, but in this moment, outside in the cold, it was a wonderful thing that he had it. And he turns around and looks at me with, like, puppy dog eyes as I'm walking away.
I'm trying to protect G-Man from himself at this point. He's had a lot of cocktails. Rule number one, we all have had a lot. Let me take that back. We all have consumed like the world is ending in an hour and 15 minutes. Some decent numbers.
Slight exaggeration.
For the record, I wasn't there.
You were not.
Yeah,
you were not.
Missed out. And I remind everybody in the group that you don't want to be the person that gets talked about at the Combine for years to come. Not that he would have been.
We've had some
But there have been
visits.
some moments, and
medical personnel have been involved.
Yeah.
But,
may or may
so
not have
I've
had to
walked
drive
away. He's there. He looks at me like.
He keeps turning around, and
yeah,
I'm like.
It's like a movie. Like, I really.
You're with Shook.
Gibbe goes, finally, oh, yeah, it was me and Shook.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Gibbe's finally like, okay, do you want to go? And we're like, G-Man, you want to go? And then he's at first you were it was a little hem-haw, and then you were like.
I'm with Vinny and Jordan.
Let's go. And then G-Man's like, takes off running towards us, and it was on. There was music playing. It was great.
Him sprinting down the city
Sprinting
block
down the sidewalk to walk in
I'm
with
like,
me and Shook.
Oh, boy.
It was great. Then we got to spend a little time. We saw you. We got to spend some time with Jake Trotter.
What the heck is Trotter doing here?
We had been talking about that unbelievable 2014 staff, and as I walk in, I saw Bobby Babbage, defensive coordinator of the Bills, and then I saw Weave, defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. Yeah, it was a scene in there. I will say your dollar goes a lot farther at Kilroy's.
Yes, it does.
In fact, I ordered a round for everybody at Kilroy's that was less than my Tito's and soda at the other place. scale, economies of scale right there in downtown Indy.
And my rule of thumb is generally if you get there late, and like it doesn't get busy until after 11.
Yep.
Because that's when the meetings with the prospects
yep.
get out. If you get there late, just drink water. Like that's like nothing good happens there after midnight. I'm just drinking water.
G-Man, did you drink water?
We had one, and we had one. We had one,
well,
but
we
had water.
Wait. There was water in the ice
yep.
in his drink?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. Like, I don't share that same opinion.
We then waited in the longest bathroom line that I think I've ever. I felt like I was at a ride at Disney. And then by the time that we had finished, there was no line when we walked out.
I don't think he has the energy to get up and walk over here.
He's got to pace himself.
I said, I go, dude, you got to have a nap because you know what's happening tonight. And he's like, no. And I'm like,
you'll see.
Young buck, it's all about the rally.
It is. I would also say, and I'm tongue-in-cheek when I call it Vegas, but it kind of turns into Vegas-y like.
This is, and someone used this description a couple of nights ago. It is NFL spring break.
Yes.
But it's like 90% dudes. It's NFL spring break.
I'd say, though, if you were to compare.
Not that I'm looking, not that I'm trying to make it anything inappropriate. You know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Nobody implied that?
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody even thought that? Doth protest?
No.
Too much. I would say, though, in my combine evolution, now I'm over a decade. I'm sure you have been, what, 20 plus years?
No. Probably 15, 16, 15, something like that, yeah.
All right, so I'm a few behind you. I would say that percentage that you threw out has changed
dramatically. Absolutely.
99.9.
Thankfully.
Yes.
Yeah, thankfully, because like we need a more diverse group here
of course.
in the league, and we are getting that. There are like 3 different women's forum events yesterday.
There was
the
a huge one last night.
The face of the combine has changed for the better. The bars at night have not. They are still
they're
the same.
the same bars.
Yes.
Well, it is the same circuit. There's no doubt about that. Well, I don't know if that was the mailbag or not.
So much more to come. We'll go mailbag tomorrow.
Mailbag will be tomorrow. So much more to come. Thank you for listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, live from the Combine on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right. Just 30? How about it? So much more to come. It's going to have to be brief, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. You want to do it again tomorrow?
Yeah,
No.
why not?
Am I doing it again tomorrow?
I
don't
don't
think
know.
I am. No, you got Bo tomorrow.
You got
All
Bo.
right.
And
He'll do it live.
You're
He'll be
not-
back
you're-
here.
No, you're part of this too.
Okay, I'll
And
be on the
quarterbacks talk tomorrow morning between 8
Oh,
a.m.
yeah,
and
yeah,
10
yeah.
a.m. It's kind of a big day.
I meant the actual show.
Kind of a
from 1
big
to
day.
3.
Kind of a big day.
All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun. The next level is next. Thanks for listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, an official betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN.
Get
Cleveland.
sleep, G-Man.